I'm just going to say how grateful I am to be speaking at the Mothers at Home Matters conference. It's a wonderful organization that supports mothers and babies and nurturing as valuable work.
Right, it's my honour to introduce our first speaker. I've just been delighted to meet Erica and her book, Being There, Why Prioritising Motherhood in the First 3 Years Matters, lit up my screen with promises of actually backing up everything I'm saying and everything that I think instinctively. She has the evidence. Erica is a psychoanalyst who's in practice, private practice in New York, and put off writing this book for a number of years so she could raise her own children. She is fresh from a grueling media session in the States with some of the so-called liberal press who didn't want to hear anything she had to say because they didn't like it, basically. So really delighted that Erica's going to speak to us today.
I just want to thank Claire. She reached out to me when the book first came out, and thank Anne, and thank everyone at Mothers at Home Matter, and thank all of you for coming to hear me today. For the past almost 30 years, I saw a trend in my practice, a worsening trend, of mental disorders at an earlier and earlier age in younger and younger children, being diagnosed and then medicated as early as 2 years old. Suicidal ideation in children as young as 4 and 5 years old. Distractibility, ADHD, early signs of aggression, and social disorders mimicking autism. And it disturbed me. And in my practice, I was seeing a connection between the absence of mothers on a daily basis in children's lives and those mental disorders. There is a lot of research. There's an entire body of research to say that mothers are not just emotionally necessary to children, but in fact are biologically necessary. What we're seeing in society now, in very young children and older children and adolescents and adults, are disorders of emotional regulation. Depression and anxiety are disorders of emotional regulation. The more the mother is there in the first 3 years to protect the baby from stress, the less stressed that baby is. We have an issue of absolutely no paid maternity leave. Women go back, 27% of women in America go back to work after 2 weeks. And so, yeah, we say in America, Houston, we have a problem. Mothering is now seen as not valuable work, and yet it's the most valuable work. What could possibly be more valuable than raising emotionally healthy children that you're sending out into the world who will be emotionally healthy adults? Can you think of anything more valuable than that? And yet, because we're not paid, because there's no status to it, it's devalued, right? Now, does it counter the feminist movement? I mean, feminists came out and did a great service to all of us. Why? Because they gave us choices. They gave us the choice to have children or not to have children, and still be valuable in society if you don't have children. And I think what's happened is the pendulum has swung too far, right? Where now, we say in the 60s and 70s, Gloria Steinem said to women in America, if you don't go to work, you're a traitor to feminism. And that has stood today as the mantra to feminism. And so there's a war, really, in America, and probably here too, between the mothers who choose to stay home or can stay home and have to sacrifice a lot, most of them, to do so, and the mothers who go to work. And I don't like that war. I don't want that war. All women should support each other. We have each other to support. And yet, the people we should be supporting the most are the children. The main contributor to depression is that we're 3 generations deep into this idea that you're a traitor to feminism if you decide you want to nurture, that nurturing makes you a traitor. The right of a woman to nurture her child is a great right. The women that I interviewed for the book, across the board, many of them were women who are incredibly successful, but didn't have to do it when they were raising small children. They weren't CEOs and congresswomen, which is the equivalent of your MPs, or while they were raising small children, and yet they could be very successful later in life when they were freed up from having such dependent children. And so I truly believe that women can do everything in life, just not all at the same time. Thank you all.
I'm going going to read. Lincoln signed the first Homestead Act, allowing the poor to own land. He established the US Department of Agriculture, referred to as the People's Department. He signed the Morrill Land Grant Act, which led to the building of the greatest colleges and universities in America. He signed the Revenue Act of 1862, dividing taxpayers into different strands according to income. And his issue of the Emancipation Proclamation was the forerunner of the 13th Amendment, which made slavery and indentured servitude illegal in America. Lincoln's early life was marred by trauma, notably the death of his mother and that of his sister, who, in tandem with his beloved stepmother, had nurtured him. The intimacy he shared with these women created in him a resilience which made it possible for him to survive the economic and emotional turbulence of his childhood. This deep, tender, reciprocal love was translated by him into a passion for humanity that would revolutionize the world. As he famously remarked, "All that I am or hope to be, I owe to my angel mother." His achievements were the byproduct of intimacy, a fragile emotional biosphere that flourishes only with love. Without a capacity for intimacy, politicians have no real concern for the impact of the economy on families or the way in which government policies affect individual lives.
So thank you so much for coming to speak today. As you could see from the room, people were loving what you were talking about, and it was just great to have a group of mothers together, people who are interested in motherhood, listening to what you had to say. It was so balanced, you got so much experience, and I think people will go away feeling really affirmed in what they've done and in their role as mothers. So thank you very much.
Well, you're very welcome, and I thank you for having me come and speak at the Mothers at Home Matters conference, because I can't tell you how valuable I think the work that you're doing is, and I encourage you to keep doing it.
Thank you. We will.